It is now my great pleasure and indeed honour to welcome to the stage, to kick us off for the afternoon, the European Parliament President, Mr. Martin Schulz. It's very good to have you with us, sir, and over to you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Chris. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to be here with you today. Let me first thank Business Europe for the invitation and for organizing this timely conference on investing in Europe. Thank you very much for the warm welcome and for the fact that I can address you once more. Did that last year, and as I saw in the program, I'm the only survivors amongst the presidents of the European institutions. So thank you very much for the second occasion. And I was told that Jean-Claude Juncker was already here in the morning. If you have now the feeling that I will hold the same speech he did in the morning, this is the usual behavior of Juncker. He tells always the same thing like me. Perhaps therefore he got more votes in the European election. Jean-Claude Juncker and I, we work closely together to bring Europe on track, and therefore it is a good opportunity today to be with you here. It is about investing in Europe. That's of course about money and figures. It is for sure also about closing the investment gap and catching up with our competitors. But ladies and gentlemen, investing in Europe is about much more than money and figures. It is about demonstrating our commitment to our union. It is about self-confidence and optimism. Investing in Europe, be it as a private or public stakeholder, is about showing trust in Europe and building bridges to a joint future. In the past years, we have repeatedly demonstrated the political will to defend our common currency against all threats. We build a firewall to protect the euro. And let me say, this is very clearly today, the euro is there to stay as a strong and reliable world currency. We constructed last year a banking union to keep our banks and the money of our citizens safe. We've strengthened the economic coordination to achieve greater stability. We undertook painful structural reforms and made progress towards greater fiscal responsibility. But now we are called upon to boost investment. And I think we must do so urgently. Today, overall levels of private and public investments are still well below the pre-crisis level. In 2013, 325 billion euros less were invested than the annual average during the past decade. The EU's share of foreign investors has also fallen. Access to finance remains a real concern, especially for small and medium-sized companies. In countries worst hit by the crisis, investments have quite simply collapsed. The problem is not a lack of investment opportunities or a lack of private capital. There are many attractive projects, not least in Southern Europe, and many companies and individuals have run up savings, but uncertainty is still holding back investments, and low consumption is dampening growth prospects. Clearly, we must return to sustainable investment levels, improve the flow of the real economy by encouraging private investment and by better targeted public spendings. The challenge, therefore, is to unlock capital by creating an investment-friendly atmosphere, by ensuring stability, completing the internal market, including through the establishment of a capital market union, increasing competitiveness and private-public partnership. Jean-Claude Juncker's investment plan plays an important role in unlocking investment. The 315 billion plan is a strong signal that we are committed to a new path for Europe towards growth and jobs. But ladies and gentlemen, in the end, the plan's success will doubtlessly depend on factors such as the level of leverage and an efficient governance setup. But the key will be to regain investors' confidence, to regain the confidence that Europe is a place worth investing in. We in the European Parliament believe that as a part of an overarching European infrastructure program, we must foremost invest in energy and telecommunication, build bridges and roads, improve our broadband networks and power grids, and fund research projects and startups which will develop the innovative products of the 21st century. In short, target investments in areas where, in the short term, it will stimulate the economy and create jobs, and in the long term, safeguard our children's future. And therefore, please allow me to go into more detail on some areas where, in my eyes, we urgently need investments. First, research and development. In this area, we are clearly lagging behind our competitors. While we Europeans spend 2% of our GDP on research and development, the United States of America spent almost 3%, and China is set to overtake us. Today, they outspend us to outcompete us tomorrow. Investing in Europe in research means building on a success story. European research policy has halted the brain drain of talented young people from Europe and even succeeded in reversing this trend. I just told to your president my experience with young startups in Europe. Young, engaged people with a lot of ideas are leaving in all our member countries from our continent because of the lack of trust to the companies, to the ideas of the young people, and because of our credit crunch. Credit crunch as a result of the banking crisis leads to the fact that young startup companies, especially in southern European countries, with a lot of ideas, founded with 3 people, 1 year later 50 people, 1 year later 100 people. And at the moment they could go to increase, to become a real big company, they need investments around 20 million, and find in Lisbon or in Madrid or in Barcelona or in Neapel a bank as a young entrepreneur investing in your company 20 million euros. Or you are the son or the daughter of George Soros. The risk capital lack in the European Union costs us every year the best talented people on our continent. If we will not change our risk capital mentality in Europe, we will lose a whole generation of young, talented people. I met a lot of them researching and investing in the digital infrastructure, for example. I think in the Juncker plan, broadband networks are essential to modern life. And we must give, this is my deep conviction, European startups even more support, in particular to help them gain a footing on the world market, but staying in Europe. I believe we have something to learn from the United States when it comes to funding startups and risk-taking. In Europe, the following thinking prevails. Someone has an idea and draws up a business plan, gets to a bank, loan, and when he fails, he is done forever. No second chance. In the United States, someone has an idea, draws up a business plan, gets loan, and fails, and gets back on her feet again with a new idea and a new business model, for which, of course, he or she gets funding, because failing is seen as a part of learning and not as being doomed for life. I'm convinced that we Europeans must develop a more risky-friendly attitude to allow business to drive. Let's be honest. The philosophy of the United States is different than here. Idea, trial, success, okay. Idea, trial, failure, next idea. This is the history of some of the most important young entrepreneurs in the United States. And how it is in Europe? Idea, trial, success, wonderful. Idea, trial, failure, you are lost for the rest of your life. One of the biggest challenges for Europe in the coming years will be to bring another thing in order. Data protection and copyright laws into a line with the new economic realities, in an effort to ensure that our firms remain competitive, but without watering down our fundamental rights and standards. This is another challenge we have to deal with here in Brussels. I'm convinced that this is an underestimated project, because in the long run, high data protection standards will prove to be a competitive advantage. The place where your data are best protected will be in the 21st century the place where you want to be. And therefore, data protection is not, as it is often taken, as a specificity of some left-wing or green outraged people. This is a question of survival of our companies in the 21st century. The best protected data place in the world will have a better future than places with a low data protection. Third area is energy. Last week, the European Council decided to move forward the energy union, and it's high time we do so. We finally must reduce our energy dependence from third parties, most notably from Russia. Every year we import energy worth 400 billion euros. I repeat the figure, I wouldn't believe it when I saw it. 400 billion euros costs our energy import. Instead of paying billions for energy coming from outside our union, it is certainly preferable to invest this money into an energy union, into merging our fragmented market into a fully integrated energy market, into research and innovation, in available and new technologies, in particular in the area of renewable energies and energy efficiency, as well as storage and transport of renewable energy. The European renewable energy business already today have a combined annual turnover of 129 billion euros and employ over 1 million people. And ladies and gentlemen, into making our houses and buildings more energy efficient, we save a lot of money. And we invest in immediate jobs. Today, 3/4 of our houses are not yet energy efficient. And finally, into fully connecting our internal pipelines and grids, which would ensure that our energy can flow freely within Europe and reach the places where it is most needed at fair prices. The Energy Union is a historic project. on par only with the internal market and the banking union. If we succeed, the energy union will make Europe energy independent, will create jobs and growth and lower energy prices for our companies and for our consumers. And if you allow, I want to add, because we are discussing today all over here in Brussels and in the member states about Greece. If we will not have trust that Greece has an economic future, no rescue measure makes sense. And therefore the question is, have we trust to a Greek future, to a sustainable development of Greek economy? My answer is yes. Looking to the energy union, I take the example of my home country, Germany. We are leaving from energy on nuclear basis and carbon-based energy as the third industrial country of the world, with an increased need of energy, with the aim, with the goal to replace nuclear and carbon-based energy by renewables. But we know that in a foreseeable time, Germany alone will not achieve, and we need then European grids, because I presume the Germans here in the first row that we will not convince our citizens to leave from nuclear energy and to import then French nuclear energy. Therefore, to import renewables, we need also renewable solar energy and wind energy coming from other countries. And the investments in the grids, as I said, are investment in the future, in energy independence internally, and in an export industry for a country like Greece, because it is well known in Peloponnese the sun is more shining than in the northern part of Schleswig-Holstein. Therefore, I believe in the potentials of Greek economy. I'm convinced that not only because of sunshine, I know because of the difficult situation in Turkey, in the Middle East, in the northern part of Africa, the figures of tourism in Greece had a record during the year 2013 and 14. Never Greece had more tourists in the country than in these years. To make this sustainable, if we speak about small and medium enterprises in the tourism sector in Greece, they tell you, if we invest now in our hotels, in our services, in our resorts, in the transport between the islands, we can make it sustainable. But then we must help them. These are also projects in the frame of the Juncker plan. I believe in the future of Greece. But I believe also that no investor will go to a country to invest in euros today and you tell him, perhaps you get back your money tomorrow in drachmen. This is not the way to convince investors to go to the country. Therefore, my appeal to all of us is that we should be, as I said at the beginning, more self-confident. Let's not allow to us to be in this eternal spiral of depression. We talk ourselves down. We must believe in our own European capacity. We must believe that Europe is a place to invest in. We must believe that Europe has an enormous capital. Our biggest advantage is our people, our well-educated young generation, our skilled workers, our innovative businessmen and businesswomen. And we must capitalize this advantage. I was just recently in China. And it is a little bit, as a president of a European institution, like in the fairy tale of the giant who is, as far away you are from him, as bigger he appears. And the nearer you approach him, as smaller he is. As in a German fairy tale, Lukas, der Lokomotivführer, der Scheinriese. As far as you are away from Europe, more people are fascinated of our European continent, of our values, of our economic success, of our integration. And as nearer you come to Europe, you hear nothing else than our depression, our no future skepticism. This is nonsense. Europe is a strong continent. The best educated generation this continent ever had is in some of our countries with around 50% unemployed. What scared me was a meeting with a young woman in Madrid, 26 years old, psychologist and architect. I found it a strange combination. When I asked her, 26 years old, when I asked her why that combination, she told me the architects have no clue of psychology and therefore they build houses nobody can live in. So this is a strong argument to educate our architects as psychologists. The debate with the young woman showed not only a diligent and engaged, a very competent young woman. In Spain, she said, 26 years old is no place for me. I go to Latin America. I didn't tell her that the ambassador of the Latin American country she wanted to go told me some days before the meeting that his country will close the borders for Europeans. We are the richest part of the world. We are still the strongest internal market of the world. But we have in some of our member states, for a whole generation, perhaps the best educated generation we ever had, no place. I'm not surprised of radicalization and upheaval in that generation. We are the richest part of the world, but with an unfair distribution of our wealth. We must become more competitive. We must reform the European Union. We must reform the European Union not by regulations of the European Parliament and the Commission. We must reform the European Union by getting back to the optimism the post-war generation in Europe had. My feeling is the generation of my parents had worse conditions than I had when they started. And for sure than my children have when they start. Why we are not committed to say we are strong, and if we go in the right direction, and the right direction is to dare to invest, then we will not win. But if we go in the direction and we dare to invest, and we create the framework in which companies can invest in growth and employment, we have a good future. This is the spirit, I think, of your meeting and conference here, and in this sense, I wish you a successful debate. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, thank you. Thank you so much. And that core message about confidence has been echoed again and again today, so thank you very much.